Opera Essence, 100% freshly squeezed opera juice, is an opera a colori podcast giving you everything you need to know to help you enjoy the world's finest operas. In this episode, we explore the plot of Il Barbiere di Siviglia, The Barber of Seville, by Gioacchino Rossini. Act 1. While the city of Seville sleeps, the square in front of Don Bartolo's house is a hive of activity with people coming and going. There is a group of musicians headed by Fiorello, and they are preparing to serenade Don Bartolo's ward, Rosina, from below her balcony. Shortly after, Count d'Almaviva, who is in love with the young woman, arrives, and the serenade begins. The Count expresses his heartfelt sentiments for her, but sadly, the music does not have the expected effect, and she does not come to the window to greet her admirer. Almaviva, embarrassed and confused, dismisses the musicians when suddenly Figaro arrives, shaking him from his bewilderment. The famous barber introduces himself, listing all of his incredible qualities, confirming that there is no one in Seville who is as capable of matchmaking as he is. Almaviva is quick to tell him his situation. He is madly in love with Rosina, but is not able to speak to her, as she is kept locked up in Dr. Bartolo's house. The old and jealous doctor is actually planning on marrying the young girl himself, regardless of their notable difference in age. Figaro promises the Count that thanks to him, he will soon be wed to the girl. At that moment, unexpectedly, the balcony opens and Rosina appears. Before Don Bartolo commands her to come back inside, she throws a note out into the street for her secret admirer, thanking him for the attention he has given her and asking the name of her brave suitor. Figaro advises the Count to not reveal his true identity, but pretend to be a young commoner named Lindoro. Almaviva is now even more anxious to meet Rosina and asks Figaro for some suggestions to help him in his task. The barber has already got a plan in mind. For a handsome fee, he suggests that the Count disguise himself as a soldier and take advantage of a law which obliges citizens to host servicemen in their houses. In this way, he can easily enter Don Bartolo's house. As well as this, and not to alarm the old guardian, he is advised to act drunk. Meanwhile, in her rooms, Rosina reflects on the emotions sparked in her by the fleeting meeting moments before. She is suddenly interrupted when Figaro and Bartolo, jealous even of the barber, enter her room. Now alone, the guardian receives a visit from Don Basilio, an old friend and Rosina's music teacher. He brings some disturbing news. Almaviva, Rosina's admirer, has supposedly been seen around Seville. Bartolo, shocked by this information, asks Basilio for advice to protect himself from any allegations by the Count. The cunning musician suggests him to discredit the rival by slandering him, putting him in bad light. Bartolo finds it hard to convince himself that Basilio is telling the truth, preferring to rush his marriage to Rosina and wed her the following day. Figaro, in the meantime, has managed to speak to Rosina alone, and he tells her that the young man she met briefly from her balcony is his cousin Lindoro, who is in love with her. The young girl is thrilled to be Lindoro's love interest and gives Figaro a letter in which she declares to reciprocate these feelings. Figaro exits the room just before Bartolo enters. More suspicious than ever, Bartolo attempts to discover the motive behind the barber's visit. His jealousy increases when he notices certain intriguing clues, such as a recently used pen, a sheet of paper missing from the desk, as well as ink spots on the girl's hands. Rosina is quick to come up with excuses, but her guardian will have none of it. Following Figaro's advice, Almaviva shows up at Bartolo's house dressed as a soldier and pretending to be drunk. Initially, the doctor tries to discourage the young man from staying in the house, but Almaviva threatens his rival by insinuating he will use more violent methods to obtain hospitality. In the chaos that ensues, Almaviva sneakily slips a letter to Rosina, who has come to see what is going on. This commotion continues until Figaro appears, drawn in by the noise. He is rapidly followed by guards, who try to calm the situation. Don Bartolo immediately reports the soldiers' impetuosity, but the Count secretly shows them a document which reveals his true identity. Don Bartolo is horrified to see that the guards do nothing to intervene, and Almaviva is not arrested. While bewilderment pervades the room, Figaro can do nothing but laugh as he looks on at the effects of his plan. Act 2. Still pondering over recent events, Don Bartolo is yet again faced with a stranger in his house. It is still Almaviva, but this time he is pretending to be Don Alonso, a music student of Don Basilio, who, he says, is at home unwell and has sent him as a substitute to teach Rosina. Although reluctant, the guardian is persuaded and permits the stranger to give the lesson. Rosina and Don Alonso start the lesson while Bartolo dozes off, allowing the lovers to stealthily exchange sweet nothings to one another. Shortly after, Figaro arrives with the intention of distracting Bartolo with the excuse of giving him a shave. The plan seems to be going smoothly, when, unexpectedly, Don Basilio appears. The shocked trio try to persuade the musician to leave immediately, convincing him that he is ill. With Basilio out of the way, the plan continues. Figaro keeps Bartolo distracted, while the two lovers arrange to meet at midnight. It is not long until Bartolo realizes what is going on behind his back, and in his rage throws them all out of the house. Now irreparably over-suspicious, Bartolo asks his servants, Ambrogio and Berta, to call for Don Basilio and to guard the front door. Ambrogio rushes to the maestro, while Berta complains about the utter confusion that has begun to go on in the house since her master decided to marry Rosina. Don Bartolo decides yet again to speed up the wedding plans and marry Rosina that very night. To gain her consent, he tells her that Lindoro has another lover and that Figaro's real plan is to give her away to a gentleman by the name of Almaviva. Horrified, Rosina runs and hides in her room, while Bartolo waits for Basilio to arrive, accompanied by the notary, to perform the wedding. It is midnight, and a thunderstorm is raging in Seville. Figaro climbs a ladder to reach Rosina's balcony, but she rejects him, accusing him of using Lindoro as bait, only to present her to Count Almaviva. She declares her love for the young Lindoro. The Count, who is hiding nearby, hears her and reveals the fact that, in truth, Almaviva and Lindoro are the same person. In the meantime, Basilio and the notary arrive. Figaro takes advantage of their arrival to have them marry Rosina to the Count instead, promising them money or the alternative of bullets should they object. Don Bartolo recognizes Lindoro in Count Almaviva and has to resign himself to the marriage which has just taken place in his absence. Finally, joy flows through the hearts of all present, who wish the newlyweds many years of love and happiness. Now you're familiar with the storyline, why don't you listen to our 5 Fun Facts podcast to find out more interesting features surrounding this opera? And now the house lights are dimmed. It's time to enjoy the show. Opera Essence, 100% freshly squeezed opera juice, is an opera a colori production. This episode was written by Tommaso Quanilli, produced by Selena Bellomi and Ivo Rizzi, and presented by Felicity Murphy. Follow us on our social media pages at Opera a Colori.